Dr. Robert Cancro. Not only has he served as a professor and chairman of psychiatry at NYU for over 30 years, he as well as a director of the Klein Research Institute until 2005. And it would take too much time for me to introduce all the awards he has gotten over the years. He has consulted for the World Health Organization, the FBI, the U.S. Secret Service, the New York Yankees, believe it or not, and I don't think you did a good job with that. But anyway, currently Dr. Cancro continues to serve as professor of psychiatry at NYU and as well as president of the International Committee Against Mental Illness. But more importantly, I consider him one of my best friends, Dr. Robert Cancro.
Thank you, Ed. I should mention, parenthetically, that during the years that I served as a consultant to the New York Yankees, they did not win a single pennant. We so neutralized their aggression. But in a very real sense, I feel like someone carrying coals to Newcastle. This is an audience that's familiar with stress, familiar with stress disorders, familiar with PTSD, familiar with the need of the military, and those of us who are not in the military. But I've been asked to say a few words. I'll try to keep them relatively brief. First of all, we live in an era that is very stressful, in a sense. In a very real sense, on paper, it is an era which should be less stressful. We don't have famine, we don't have epidemics, we don't have many things that we had to deal with through the history of the species. The problem, in my opinion, is that we have evolved so that we are able to handle the frightening experiences that were traditional, such as hunger, cold, etc. The stresses we have in New York City is not famine or petulance, but it's every day grinding away at you. And we do not have the history that allows us to cope with these kinds of stresses as effectively as those for which we have historically evolved. So I believe it is not correct to say that it is a more stressful era, but rather an era in which the stresses are different and we're less competent at handling them. The issue is, how do you modulate stresses? How do you deal with the fact that there's a deadline coming up? I haven't done my taxes yet. How do I get an extension? And these things may seem modest or minor, but they are very compelling. Or you get a report from your doctor that says, well, your cholesterol is too high, we're going to have to do something about it. And you begin to worry, am I going to be able to take care of my family, etc. So it's a different kind of stress. Historically, the concept of post-traumatic stress disorder evolved out of the military experiences. During the Civil War, it was just essentially ignored, although Lincoln did arrange to offer medical care to the returning veterans. However, whether we call it the battle fatigue, whether we call it shell shock, or whether we call it post-traumatic stress disorder, what we saw in the military was that the experiences of combat left an indelible wound. It's described here as a hidden wound. I don't see it as a hidden wound, because it's not hidden to the person, it's not hidden to their family, it's not hidden to those who have to deal with them. It is invisible in the sense that it's not an amputated limb.
I deal with pain every day. I have nerve.
You're right. But in all seriousness, if you've lost a limb, I can see it before you say a word. But if you're scarred internally, I don't see it. And it is important to understand that the way the brain works, memories are stored, and the associated feelings are stored, but they're stored separately in different places. And when you bring the memory up, it calls upon the bank of emotions that are associated, and you experience not just the memory, but the feelings. So that when you think about it, the feeling comes back automatically. And what we are trying to do in many of our really effective treatments is to split them so that you can remember the event and not have the associated painful emotions that go with it. You're not going to forget the events till Alzheimer's relieves you of them. But in the interim, you want to be relieved of the associated negative affect, or forget my jargon, the negative feelings that go with those memories. The drugs do not do that. And I say this as a pharmacologist. I ran the New York State Committee on Psychopharmacology for, I don't know, over 20 years. Our drugs don't do that. They numb you. They make you care less about how lousy you feel, which is of some merit, don't misunderstand me. But it is hardly the answer that we're striving for, or should strive for. We need to be able to find ways in which people can detach the experience, separate the experience from the negative feelings. Transcendental meditation, when I first heard about it, I reacted like a typical New Yorker. Oh, what bullshit. And, you know, if the Beatles believe in it, and the Maharaja believes in it, and Hollywood believes in it, it must be rubbish, they'll prove it otherwise. As it so often happened in my life, I was sure and wrong. So I get used to being wrong, because it happens with great regularity. I had enough integrity to actually look into the issue and try to learn something about it before rejecting it, and found to my surprise that there was enormous merit in transcendental meditation, that it was an effective treatment that could change a person's life in meaningful ways, and that there was no injury associated with it, no negative side effects, no unwarranted experience. You didn't have to worry about whether your hair would fall off, whether you would gain weight, or whether something other that could happen to you as a side effect from the medication you were taking or from the treatment process. It wasn't noxious. It offered enormous relief. And, all right, it takes a half hour a day. In our life, a half hour a day is a tremendous amount of time. But it really tells us something when we find 15 minutes or 20 minutes twice a day a burden, but it can waste so much time sitting behind the wheel or do the tango on our BlackBerry. The fact of the matter is that it is an investment in yourself, an investment in your health, both physical and mental. So I really can say, as someone who has no axe to grind, that it is a very valuable technique. I'm not saying that there aren't other approaches to PTSD and to dealing with stress, but it is one that has a great deal to offer. I want to recognize the role of the David Lynch Foundation in proselytizing for this and trying to present it in a way that makes it not Hollywood, but science. And there are hundreds of studies done by reputable scientists which demonstrate the utility and value of this. This is not a game. It's not something that it is for make-believe. It is a serious, effective treatment, and that this has been demonstrated and will continue to be demonstrated. I do want to thank and congratulate the people at the Lynch Foundation for their work.
I can.
He wants mic time.
There's nothing like planning. It is really my personal pleasure and privilege to introduce to you Bobby Roth. Bobby serves as the executive director of the David Lynch Foundation, which is based here in New York, and has done an incredible job of raising money to make it possible to train individuals, both within the military, outside of the military, and the first responders. He has been selfless in all of this, and it is my privilege to introduce him to you, Bobby.
I want to thank Mitzi very much for this afternoon hosting this. I want to thank our Lorraine Cancro. Dr. Cancro is wonderful. Niece, and also our first responders, our New York City firefighters in the back. If you You've heard all the statistics, you've heard all the numbers, it's obvious, you've seen the case histories, it's obvious that we need to do something to address the problem of stress and traumatic stress in the lives of everyone, but in particular our first responders, our veterans, our active duty military. What is that something? Interestingly enough, that something turns out to be something that is thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. And that something is human beings taking a few minutes twice a day to be quiet. Simple as that. We can have handfuls of pills, we can have all, and medications are fine, talk therapy is fine, we need a whole regimen. But just that few moments of quiet. And not just a surface, close the eyes, you can't wait till your few moments are up type of a quiet where you get restless. But a profound, accessing a profound silence that exists within every single human being. I don't care their age, I don't care their nationality, I don't care their religious belief, philosophy of life, political orientation. By virtue of being a human being, every one of us has a level deep within the mind that is already calm. The analogy to say quickly is like that of an ocean. You have waves on the surface of the ocean and you think, oh my God, the Atlantic, 40-foot, 50-foot high swells. The ocean is turmoil, turbulent. Yeah, but the ocean is a mile deep. And at the depth of the ocean, quiet. Already. Doesn't matter how stormy it is up there, untouched, quiet. And every human being has, we all have the surface of our mind, and the analogy is the thinking mind. I gotta do this and I gotta go here. Anybody have a gotta mind? I gotta call him, I gotta call her, I gotta make a list, I gotta find the list, then I gotta make another list, then I gotta relax, then I gotta get to sleep, then I gotta get up, I gotta get going, I gotta slow down. The gotta mind, waves, surface. And yet all of us would love to have some access to an inner calm, an inner stability, an inner ease. And the hypothesis is, from all the research, hundreds of studies, as Dr. Cancro so beautifully referenced, the results of this, that deep within every human being is a level of the mind that's already quiet, already silent, wide awake. And traditionally, non-religious, simple, practical meditation, non-cultural, non-religious, universal meditation is a tool to allow the active, excited mind to settle down and experience that inner calm and the transformation that comes from that. The whole purpose of the David Lynch Foundation and the driving force behind Operation Warrior Wellness, which is a great he is a great American and a dear friend. And I just have to stop and we have to give a loud round of applause for Ed Schloeman.
Not called for.
Well deserved. Purpose of the Operation Warrior Wellness and the David Lynch Foundation is just to incorporate into all the existing programs to help our men and women overcome the trauma of stress, deep stress, to introduce that simple tool and allow of transcendental meditation. And if the word meditation is a little weird for you, then just call it Technique X. I don't care. The word meditation doesn't mean anything. It's just a term. A simple tool that anyone can learn that allows the mind to settle down, allows the body to take profound rest and heal and rejuvenate from inside and wake up the brain and return to family and friends more ourselves. Just more ourselves. That's it. No philosophy, no lifestyle. Just a tool to allow each one of us to become more ourselves. So it is an honor to be here to talk about this program, to serve and help Ed Schloeman. And I'll just conclude by saying something. We had a gala in December, a few days after Hurricane Sandy. And there had been a fundraiser after that to raise money for the victims of Hurricane Sandy, as there should have been, because there was great devastation of the exterior landscape. And we needed funds to build new buildings and schools and businesses. But you know what? There was a greater devastation to the interior landscape. People's lives destroyed. And you can't just rebuild those with nails and wood. And the David Lynch Foundation raised funds at that gala. We now have provided scholarships and taught, I think now 40 or 50 men and women who were first responders for Hurricane Sandy. We're now going to start working out in Red Hook. We're also working another area where there was great devastation, and that was Newtown. And with the work of Peter Travalis, who's here, who's a TM teacher and also very Greek, and others, we've taught 50 or so of the men and women and children in Newtown to meditate. Why? To rebuild the interior landscape. So, working together, we can create a much more, a healthier, harmonious, productive, creative city and world. And the David Lynch Foundation is honored that all of you and Operation Warrior Wellness, all of you have come here today, at the end of this busy day, towards the end of a busy week. And again, a shout out to the wonderful Mitzi Perdue, a beautiful woman. If you're in a position to help us support bringing meditation,
Join our board.
if you're in a position to help out the David Lynch Foundation and Operation Warrior Wellness, join our board. Ed Schloeman would like to offer the opportunity for you to serve on an advisory capacity with Operation Warrior Wellness. That's a call for Bob Cancro. Bob, what do they have to say? You want to share that with us? And equally importantly, if you're in a position to be able to support the rebuilding of the interior landscape of so many people's lives that is not touched by even the beautiful homes or rebuilt homes, then please talk to Ed or any one of us, because your support, every penny will go to the best possible use. So thank you to our first responders, our firefighters. You make this city great, and it's an honor to have you all here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.